Welcome, everybody, to the Competition Archery Media Podcast. I'm your host, PJ Riley, and the CAM Podcast is brought to you by O'Neill's Classic Archery. And I am here today with LAS Classic repeat champ, Vegas back-to-back champ, Tanja Gellenthien. Tanja, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Congrats on the past month. That's got to be pretty awesome.
It's definitely awesome. You know, it's more than I could have hoped for. You know, it's what we all practice for, but actually, you know, winning all these events is hard, and there's a lot of good people shooting these events. So you're never guaranteed any podiums or anything.
So we were just talking a little bit before we turned on here, and you mentioned that indoor is your thing. I guess I realize that you're really good at indoor, but I didn't know that's what you considered yourself.
I don't know. For some reason, I've always really enjoyed indoors, and I don't know if it's because, sorry, my cat likes to say hi.
That's perfect. I like that.
It's just you and the bow, and you know, if you make a mistake, it's all on you. And I don't know. I think that's kind of cool sometimes. I think indoors has a certain thing to it that outdoors doesn't have, and outdoor, you know, has other things that I really like, but I don't know. I just really like it. And yeah.
Do you like practicing indoor?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Do you like the mind? Because the one thing I do like about it is the mind numbing. Just maybe that's me. That's why I'm no good at it, because my mind does go numb. But I don't know a pro like you if that's what happens. But I just like sitting there and you're just shooting and just focusing on the target, and everything else just kind of goes away.
Yeah, it tends to, and you just shoot there and you just focus on the bow and aiming and your shot timing, and it's so easy to just get in the zone for indoors because there's no real distractions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So we should mention, so 2024 Lancaster Archery Classic Women's Pro Champ, and of course Vegas champ for 2024. So this, for the Classic, this was your second?
Yeah, my second Classic, yes.
Okay. I think the first one was 2019, if I remember.
Yeah.
2019. And this is third Vegas. Yes?
Third Vegas, yes.
Okay, but back-to-back, you won it last year. Was there a shoot-off last year? I don't remember.
Yeah, so last year, both me and Paige Pierce shot a 900 too, and it was the exact same situation as with me and Ella. You know, we went into the first round normal scoring. Both me and Paige shot 10s. And then second end, you know, you went to X for scoring. Paige shot 2 10s and then dropped one on her last one, and I shot 3 10s.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the finals in Vegas, but did you have the last shot?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah, both the one last year and the one this year, Ella and Paige had both shot their last arrow, and I knew I needed to shoot a 10 to win.
And in the Classic, you needed an 11. Or, I mean, you were going for the 11. You weren't shooting at the 12. But so tell me what that's like, and I especially want to talk about the Classic one, because you actually let the bow down, came back, and for me, I was standing behind there, and I was like, oh, I'm thinking in my head, oh man, that's bad. I hope she keeps that together, which you did. I mean, boom, 11. But what's that like for you?
Oh, I mean, so obviously it's not ideal, and I would have liked to have gotten the shot off the first time. But sometimes when there are so many other things happening, like I get nervous a little bit. I'm probably not aiming as well as I would like to. And I get back there, and if it doesn't go off within my normal shot sequence, then I can either force it to go, which is one of those where you're like, your odds of hitting the 11 are fairly good, but you don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
So because we have 30 seconds, I knew I had time to let down and then, regroup and then shoot a shot that I would actually be really happy with.
Gotcha. And what was happening there at the Classic? What were you seeing that you didn't like?
I couldn't get it to sit exactly where I want it to. And because it ran a little longer than my normal shot timing, it wasn't quite the timing that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to explain, but I couldn't get it to where I wanted it to. And so I knew it'd be smarter for me to let down, even though I knew I would be, I wouldn't have a lot of time on the second arrow, but I was like, I think it's worth it. And I know I can shoot a good shot really fast instead of a long, bad one,
That's the part that I need right there, Tanja, to like you said, a smart thing was to let down and start over. I never do the smart thing in that situation. I force it and then I shoot a 9 or worse.
I will say that's something I've learned over the years. I used to just force it sometimes. And, after you lose a certain amount of matches, you learn that maybe that's not always the best way to do it.
Well, I was going to say, and the bad part about forcing it is that sometimes it works. So then you got that in your head and you're like, hey, I can do it. But then that's a bad thing.
Yeah, you have to know, when you should probably let down and what the odds are of, do I have time? And if you don't have time, well, maybe it's better to just get the arrow off because, sometimes in World Archery and other things, you only have 90 seconds.
Yeah.
For 3 arrows. And you don't really have time for letdowns. So it's all a game of being smart and taking that into conversation. But luckily, at Lancaster, we have time.
Yeah. Do you know what is your normal shot timing? 7 seconds, 8 seconds? Do you know?
So
I'm sure you know what it feels like, but do you know what the time is?
So my normal, the shot that I prefer, let's say, like a World Archery match where you have 20 seconds.
Yeah.
The timer starts and my shot should be off by the time it goes down to like 11 seconds.
Okay.
I always say, whenever I have Danspo or Braden or anything standing behind me, I always tell them to not start counting down until we get to 7 seconds.
Gotcha.
Because I don't need to, rush it or whatever you say before the 7 seconds.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So then, so you let down and you start over now, but for me, never being in that situation though, I would imagine the anxiety of the second drawback is a little bit higher than the first one.
That would make sense, but for some reason, just getting that second or two to, regroup and take a deep breath because you're not breathing when you're holding your shot. So just, getting another breath in and then resetting it back on the target actually helps.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then the second shot, I'm guessing everything felt the way you wanted it to.
It wasn't 100% and it never will in a situation like that because I was still nervous. I obviously wanted to win. So, but that's one of those times where some of it is just out of your control. And I knew the only thing that I could actually do was make a good shot.
Yeah. So then, and what did you shoot in, where did you qualify at the Classic? Like after qualifications, what were you seated?
Yeah. So I think I ended up 4th with, what's it called? 650.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then the matches, how did that part of the tournament go for you?
So they went pretty well. I wasn't sure going into it because there are a lot of good archers at this event. And I started out with Cara Kelly and she started just pounding X's. So I knew that one was going to be a tough match.
Yeah.
And I think I ended up winning by 1 point or something. She's a hell of an archer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then in my second match, I was up against Jody Venom from India.
Oh yeah, past winner, classic winner.
Exactly, yep. Exactly. So I was like, well, this is, it's crazy to shoot against her so early, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
Like, but there's so many good ones that no matter what match you had ended up in, it wouldn't have been an easy win. And I beat Jody by 1.2. So they were all close matches.
Yeah. And then you came into the finals as the 2 seed.
Number 1.
Oh, you did come in as number 1. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
I did. Yeah.
And now is that, we've talked about this before, and especially we talked about it during the finals, when I'm doing commentary, we talk about it, that Paige is one who has said she doesn't necessarily like being the top seed. It's good. You're guaranteed no worse than second, but she said she's also lost several times as the 1 seed because, Ella had a match under her belt, so she was calibrated, dialed in with the lighting and all that. What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, if we look at the facts, every single time I've been number 1 seed, I've won it.
Oh, okay. You've won it. Okay.
So, yeah. So, I mean, with that, I probably prefer to be number 1.
Gotcha.
And every single time I've, been second or third or wherever, I've gotten second all those times. So,
gotcha.
I don't know if it's, if it's random or one of those things where I come in and I haven't already spent all my energy in the previous match, or, I feel ready for this one match, and I know, no matter what, it's still a podium, but yeah.
Right. Gotcha. That's interesting. Yeah. Cause I mean, like it's personal. It's each, you're all different. So that would make sense. But okay. So then we go to the classic. So back-to-back 900s. Have you done that before? Back-to-back 900s?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think. So I won in 23. In 22, me, Paige, and Lico all shot a 900.
Okay.
And I got second. Lico beat us again.
Gotcha.
And then 23, me and Paige shot a 900. And then this year, me and Ella.
And I forget, who was the first woman to shoot a 900?
The first person. I'm not actually sure.
For some reason, I thought it was
Mary?
you.
No.
There
were 3 ladies before me, I believe.
Okay, gotcha.
Maybe Mary, Sarah. I'm not quite sure of the names. Yeah.
Okay. So 900s there at Vegas. Obviously, the pressure is through the roof. What do you think is the hurdle there? Now, women, it's becoming more common, but it's not up to where the men were. 27 of them shot it this year. What do you think it'll take to get to where, hey, one of the women, somebody in the women's pro is going to shoot a 900 every year, no matter what?
I honestly think the year it changed was the year Lico first shot a 900 and won. Okay. And I know all the other ladies, we've won with 900s before, but it still wasn't, super common.
Right.
And it still once in a while got one with, 99s or whatever. And I think when Lico came in, shot a 900, she was 14.
Yeah, correct.
I think it was kind of a wake-up call for some of us.
How about that?
Yeah, she comes in 14 years old, just shoots a 900 like it's nothing, and the rest of us are like, okay, we need to, we need to pick up our game. This is the where we need to be at every time to win.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that was really, really cool.
Well, the young lady at the Classic who was shooting youth female open, she was 17, and she actually shot the highest of any female archer at the Classic with a 655. She was shooting youth female open, but her score would have been tops in women's pro.
I mean, and I think that's amazing. Yeah. I love to see women shoot amazing and shoot good and, raise the bar for women in the sport. So I think that's awesome. And, maybe next year she'll shoot with us in the pro class.
Right. Yeah. I think it's cool just to see more, you always want to see more. I mean, even the guys, some of these youth male open scores were insane.
Yes, it was crazy.
They're just pushing.
It is. And, we're the women obviously don't have the numbers that the men do. So I don't know if we'll ever get to 27 900s. But I do think there's been set, precedents where to win Vegas, you do have to shoot a 900.
Yeah. Okay. And so for you, when you're working on a 900, what is the toughest day for you of the three? Is it the last day or?
It changes every time. And for some reason this year, the second day was the hardest.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't necessarily just during shooting. It was the time after where you're like, okay, well, I'm still clean. And you're anxiously waiting for Sunday to start and be over. And yeah, the waiting is the worst part. When I actually got to the shooting and I got to shoot my bow, it all went away.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So the shooting isn't the worst part. It's the waiting.
It's the waiting. It's funny. I forget who I was talking to where they said actually the first day is the hardest, to where they're like, that's the day they don't want to screw up on day one.
I don't know. If I'm going to screw up, I'd rather screw up on the first day because then I'm not stressed on day 2 or 3.
Yeah. And I think about Chris Perkins. He missed his 90th arrow to get knocked out. Oh.
I think so many people have been there and done that, and it's heartbreaking when that happens.
One arrow, yeah, I would think that would just about kill me. I'd be like, that's all I needed. I've done it 89 times and I missed that one.
Exactly.
At least if you miss number one.
I'd rather miss number one and then shoot 89 perfect ones after that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So while we're talking, then you went into the finals there against Ella Gibson. What is that experience like for you going into a Vegas shoot-off?
At that point, that you don't have the same amount of nerves. To be honest, the hard part is shooting the 900, or the stressful part, I'll say.
Okay.
For me, at least, that's where I'm stressed, and that's what I really, really want to accomplish. And I think, once you get to that point and you're down to 2, you're like, okay, no matter what happens, I did really good this weekend. I'm going to either be one or 2.
Yeah.
But I did awesome. And so there isn't the same amount of stress. I think I'm able to have a little more fun in there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It might be weird, but Vegas is so stressful, and shooting that 900, there's some sort of
it's done. I did it.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So I'm guessing when you go into Vegas, that's what you're expecting. You're expecting a 900.
Yes. I need to be. That's where the level is at. And if that's what you need to win, then I need to expect myself to shoot a 900. And, so that's what my practice goes towards. This is where I need to be at. And
at the Classic, had you shot any 9s, or were your 10 points lost just 11s?
So I did shoot a 9 at the Classic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when something like that happens, does that freak you out thinking ahead to Vegas or no?
I mean, obviously it would be awesome if every single qualification you shot up until then would have been perfect and you knew going into Vegas, there was no chance.
Yeah.
But it's not always like that. I started my indoor season with Kings of Archery, and that's that's a Vegas round. I shot a 9 there too.
Okay.
And Rushmore Rumble is also a Vegas round. I shot a 9 there too. So it's you don't have to be perfect throughout the whole season to necessarily do good or have good results.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How often do 9s show up when you're practicing, when you're just by yourself shooting?
More than you'd think.
Okay.
Braden likes to tell me that I'm a really bad practicer, as in not that I don't practice,
yes,
and not that I'm not on the range a lot, but it's hard for me to get in the same mindset in practice as I do when it's a tournament. It's almost like when there's a tournament, your brain goes into a different mode or mindset, and my focus just turns on. And I don't know, it's so hard to get into that during practice for some reason.
Gosh, again, I'm nowhere near on your caliber, but I'm exactly the opposite to where it's in practice. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. And then as soon as this ends for score, forget it. It's gone.
And I think that's where my brain, it's like, okay, you go from like, oh, here, it doesn't matter. And your brain just goes.
That's why you just won Vegas in the Classic. So we were talking. So now, okay, here you come off these 2 big wins at indoor archery. And then bam, you have 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And now we're at 3D.
I know. And it's kind of crazy because mentally, I want to take, a week off and be like, okay, I need to put it behind me, but there's no time.
Right.
I'm going straight to the range to set up my 3D bow and figuring out all that stuff, sight tapes, all that fun stuff.
And like, do you have, so going into ASA, this will be the second year of the women's known pro class. Mm-hmm. Like, do you set goals or expectations, or what's your thought process before that season starts?
Well, I have places that I want to be and want to get at. And they're not necessarily, scores or anything, or they can just be to improve on what I did last year. Because, I've shot 3D for several years now, but I still feel like it's really, really new to me, and there's still so many things to learn.
Right.
So as long as I'm slowly improving, I can't really be mad with that.
Gotcha. So looking like last year, do you consider last year a success for you?
It's a hard one. I would say yes and no, because I can't be mad at the podiums that I got.
Yeah.
But I also can't lie and say that I wouldn't have liked to have won one.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
Is there anything from last year that you're like, okay, I need to work on this, that you have been working on, or we're just finishing indoor, maybe that you plan to work on here in the coming weeks?
For me, mostly it's just aiming on these animals. It's so easy for me to make a really good and perfect shot on a target.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when I shoot 3D, my shot isn't the same, and I need to figure out why it's different.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's because it's one arrow and I don't get to shoot a bunch and get in the zone, or if it's because I'm not aiming at something that kind of like draws you in. But I definitely have to figure out how to make my target shot my 3D shot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
In that line now, Darton, you've been shooting with Darton. This is your second year or third year?
Second year. So we switched in, what was it, December of 2022. So okay. 23 was a full year.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's 24. A year and a couple months.
Clearly it's working. Obviously they agree with you.
Yes.
What is it that you like about those? I mean, the company, we all know, Randy Kitt's great guy. Mm-hmm. That guy who is the sales rep there in the East, that Braden guy, he's pretty cool too. But yeah, what is it about the bows that works for you?
Well, they fit my shot process really, really good. When I get under pressure or get nervous, I like to make an aggressive shot. I like to really pull into it and pull hard. It makes me aim better, and it makes me execute better. And it gives me somewhere, to project all that energy you get from being nervous. And when you pull into it with a Darton bow, it almost like it gets better.
Gotcha.
Like the bow is designed to be able to, be pulled into the wall, and so it aims better for me when I do that and it just makes it very easy under pressure to control.
And which one were you shooting for indoor?
I was shooting the Exodus.
And then what are you shooting for 3D?
I'm also going to go with the Exodus.
Same one. Okay.
Works. Yeah.
Gotcha. And actually, let's run through your setups for both of them. Okay, so the Exodus for indoor, you have that set at what poundage and let off?
So for indoors, I have it around 57 pounds and 17 pounds of let off.
Okay.
Which normally for outdoors, I run 60 pounds and around 19 pounds of holding weight.
Gotcha.
As soon as you get outdoors and there's more wind and more things trying to move you around, you need that little bit more added weight to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then your bars, Conquest
747s. Yep.
Ton of weight? Not a lot of weight?
Right now, I think I am 13 and 22 ounces.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, usually for outdoors, I up that because when you add more holding weight, you kind of want a little bit more weight on the bars. So
right.
Changes a little bit. But yeah, I've tried some.
Go ahead.
Thinner stabilizers. But I really, really like the 747s.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Then your sight, scope, setup, lens. What do you got there?
I run all XL sight and scope, but I run the X Focus 365 lens in there. Just the normal 6 power with a dot for indoors. I'm one of those that I like to put the dot in the very, very middle, so I have the smallest dot on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's the size of the X, maybe.
Yeah, you like the small. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Braden is the opposite, correct?
He's very much the opposite.
He likes the big.
He has the biggest one on there. I don't know how he does it.
That's got to make for some interesting conversation.
It does, yeah. And it's funny because that's one, people are so different and they need different things to shoot their best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
And outdoors for 3D, are you still at that 6 power?
Yes.
Okay.
I have played with, 4 powers and 5 powers and other stuff. And no matter what I tried, I ended up going back to a 6 power.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can you see, let's say, 40 yards? Can you see the rings?
So I can usually always see the core line.
Okay. Yeah.
And if the lighting is right, I can see the 10 line too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not necessarily the 12s.
No.
Okay.
No. Those you have to be a little bit closer to see those. At least for me.
I hear, we do our feature shot of the week and I shoot with these guys and they're like, well, you see the 12, it's outlined right there. I'm like, no, I don't see that. I see a deer. That's what I see. But
yeah, I will say it's taken me quite a few years to get to the setup I have now. I've tried a lot throughout the years and a lot of different, you know, companies for peeps or scopes or lenses and all that. And it took a while to get where I was like, okay, now I feel like I can actually see. So whenever other people are talking about, oh, like you see that, you see that 12 at 30 yards. Now I'm like, okay, I actually do see it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then you're shooting Black Eagle arrows.
Yes.
For indoor, are you shooting 27s?
I am. Yeah. I didn't even get to set up my 23s this year. So all 27s.
Even for 3D, you'll do 27s.
No.
Oh,
for 3D, I'll pull out the 23s, I think. I'm not sure if I'll play you with some Spartans or something thinner. It kind of depends on what speed I can get my bow to or.
Yeah. Okay. You are contemplating skinny.
Speed. At the Classic last year, I did shoot my Revelations, and that was one of the best scores I'd shot at ASAs all year. So
no kidding. Okay. Yeah. I guess if you put it where it's supposed to go, you don't need the extra diameter, right?
Right. I obviously trust my Revelations a lot.
Yeah.
But it's so hard because it's one of those line things, just like indoors, 23s or 27s, 23s sometimes group a little bit better, but 27s catch more lines. So,
right.
Yeah.
And of course, gas bowstrings you're going to have on your bows there.
Yeah. Gas bowstrings, my trusty strings. I just shoot the normal, the high octane ones.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And your release, you're shooting
I shoot the goat as a thumb button.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for gas, I forget, what do you do for gas?
So I'm the international salesperson.
International. Okay.
Yeah. So I communicate with all the international shops and make sure all the orders are coming in and they're being taken care of.
So that's been, Eric Griggs has done a great job at growing that business from, starting it from nothing and building it up there.
For sure.
Are you seeing that like across the world that you're capturing more countries now, more international sales?
I think I definitely am. The growth in the last year has been really, really awesome. And, as they open up, over there in Europe, and people are starting to really, notice gas, and we're getting some really, really good feedback. And, obviously people are loving the recurve plus strings.
Yeah.
Target is a lot bigger over in Europe. There isn't as much hunting.
Right.
So they're all in for all those, target strings and all that stuff. So it's been really, really awesome.
Cool. And then, so Tanja, you're shooting all this time. What do you do when you're not shooting? And when are you not shooting? What's your down season?
I feel like I'm shooting most of the time.
Yeah.
No, I like to go hiking with my dog. We live really close to Red River Gorge, which is this awesome, what do you call it?
It's like a park or natural area. Yeah.
Yeah. With, huge mountains and lots of trails, and we love going for walks there. My dog just is a huge fan. So yeah, we do that a lot.
I would guess like probably October is, I would think, maybe the quote unquote slow time.
Yes.
3D's done. The indoors not quite. Not
exactly.
Like November
usually,
yet.
We usually have the World Cup final around August, September, depending on where in the world it is. And so after that one, it's downtime, and we usually have a month and a half before we have to get ready for Kings of Archery, and indoor season starts in mid-November. So
I forgot about the whole World Cup thing that you do too. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking 3D and indoor. I should ask, what is on your slate now? So you just finished Vegas shoot. You're going to shoot all the ASAs. What else is on tap for this year for you?
Well, so actually this year will be probably mostly 3D. There's obviously, we have 3 World Cups this year. We normally have 4, but because of the Olympics, they had to. Yeah. And I love shooting the World Cups. But unfortunately, because of funding and other things, I'm going to be cutting down on the amount of them I'm going to be doing.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to do the Turkey World Cup in June, I believe it is.
Yeah.
I would like to do, the USATs. I think those are really fun to shoot.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I think even if I do mostly 3D or whatever, I love to add target to anything, because I think target is such a good way to perfect your shot.
Gotcha.
Just on a target, it's so easy to see when you make mistakes and fix them.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes that's a little harder to do on 3D animals, at least for me. So
yeah, how do you know if it's like, oh, that was actually a half inch to the left? It still hit the 12, but apparently that's not exactly where I was aiming.
Exactly. And as long as I'm not, the most amazing at 3D, I'm still learning, where to aim and everything. I like to have the target on the side too, to make sure that my grouping and my setup is actually where I want it to be able to trust it.
Yeah. Now for World Cup, you still shoot for Denmark, correct?
I do, yes.
Okay.
And it's, it's one of those things where if you want to switch countries, you have to take a full year off from any World Archery. So no indoor World Cups,
really?
No outdoor World Cups, no World Championships, European Championships, or anything. And it's very hard for me to take a full year off.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
Well, they don't want archers just switching countries.
Oh, gotcha.
Let's say Olympics is in 3 months and Austria has an extra spot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you mentioned, difficult for folks like you.
It is, because a full year is a lot. There's a lot of tournaments to not go to.
Yeah, right. Wow. Getting back to the 3D then, I thought it was pretty cool to see. We saw a lot of new faces, not new, but, faces that we don't, you and Paige. Yeah, we see you shooting all these tournaments. But there were a lot of young ladies who came in, Danielle Woody, Madison Cox. There were several of them who, it was cool to see them coming up and, boom, jumping in there, women's known pro in its first year, getting on the big stage. How was that for you to see that progressing? I'm guessing we're only going to see, I've seen some of the names, we're expecting it to be even bigger this year.
Like, I think it's awesome. All I want is for this sport to grow, and especially in the numbers, with the women. We're nowhere near where the men are, but I would love to just see us slowly grow and get bigger. So anytime we get new ones coming into the class or just new ones shooting the events, I'm excited for it. And I always try to, encourage people to come and shoot with us.
When you go out there, do you feel like you have a target on your back? You and Paige are kind of the big guns out there.
No, I don't think I ever think about that. People are always super duper nice. And that's, one thing I've noticed is I always have fun out there. We can chat, we can make jokes, and no one's ever mad or anything. It's fun out there.
All right. So you've shot how many seasons of ASA now?
So
4, I think at least.
So technically I started, I think, my first ASA in 2018.
Oh, 18. Okay.
But that was back when there was only K45.
Okay, you were there even before the K50. Gotcha.
Yes, I was. I shot K45 for like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And then I shot K50. Was it 2 years we had it?
Yep.
2 years, yeah. Now, known pro.
Okay, so you're an experienced ASA archer. Which one is your favorite?
Which ASA?
Yes.
It's gonna have to be Foley.
Has to be because
the food.
Yes.
I'm a big foodie, and you just cannot go wrong with the food there.
100%. Yes. I agree wholeheartedly. They could have all of them there, and I'd be okay with that.
I would 100% be okay with that.
So, flip side, which one is your least favorite? Let's see how in sync we are here.
As sad as it is, because how close it is to home, it's be London.
You just feel like you're at home. You don't feel like you're on a vacation or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I like to go home at night. That's great. But I shot it last year, and that Saturday morning is just rough.
Oh, yeah.
Do
you, so when you're at London, you do stay at home. How far is that?
I think it's an hour and 15.
Okay.
When we get to Friday and Saturday, we usually stay over there because you have to be there so early, and we don't want to have to get up at 4 or 5 to drive.
Yeah.
So we do usually stay a couple of days at a hotel.
Gotcha. See, I was going to say Minden because of the food. I haven't found a decent place yet, or I don't know if it's the timing or whatever, but we always end up eating. What's the place we eat at, Kyle? At Minden. Oh, Texas Roadhouse. Oh, yeah. For whatever reason, we're right next to it, so we eat there every night. I think it's because it's easy, but
it is easy, and you always know what you're getting.
Yeah. But yes, Foley. I've been thinking about, for some reason this year, I started thinking about it about a month ago. I was already like, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait for some shrimp.
I know. I'm excited. We usually go to this place down by the beach. And they're like a bunch of like containers, but made into like this.
I've heard of that, but I haven't been there.
I can't remember what it's called, but they make absolutely amazing tacos and guac, and yeah, you should go. It's 100% worth it.
All right. Well, Tanja, was there anything that we did not talk about today that you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered most of it.
We hit all the good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we wanted to say congrats because that is, I'm sure that's, how can you imagine an indoor season being any better than winning the Lancaster Archery Classic and then going out and doing it again at Vegas? I mean, that's just got to be an awesome feeling.
Oh, it 100% is. I couldn't be happier with the end of indoor season. It's nice that it's the end of indoor season because I don't know how to follow that up. So,
well, we still have indoor nationals.
Yes.
And the USA Archery indoor. Have you shot that yet?
No. So okay. I am not allowed to shoot those.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. You have to be a U.S. citizen.
So you'll just do NFA indoor nationals.
Yeah, I'll just stick to the NFA stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, that is another episode of the Competition Archery Media Podcast. Tanja Gellenthien, congrats on the big wins. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, the CAM Podcast, you can find that on all the platforms, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Thanks for joining us today.